Perfect.
I know that little tripod.
I know, it's crazy. It's a fun looking thing. I know, we kind of know about the clinical impact.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
going over that, I've talked to a lot of people about it. So we know that that's proven.
Right.
But most,
Financial.
yeah, most administrators
Yeah.
are interested in, how is this going to make me any money?
Yeah.
I mean, because frankly, it's not a cheap piece of equipment. And so, putting out that capital expense is a big decision and kind of scary for some facilities. So from your perspective, from a corporate perspective, how do you justify spending, $9,000 or $10,000, $11,000 on a piece of equipment? How do you know it's benefiting you?
Well, I mean, one of the first things that I always do is kind of an assessment of, do we need this piece of equipment? What is the value that this piece of equipment will give us? What else is on the market that's comparable? How is this going to help me get new referrals, increase our patient load? Can we use it for marketing? So I look at a lot of different dimensions than just what the cost is. So that's what I did when therapeutic industries came to me about the BariHab, and started out with just looking at a product and kind of being a little skeptical and saying it's a lot of money, and we have a mat and we have a standing frame, and what can this do that's different? And then as we kind of went through the process, I realized the value, and then I was able to convince my higher-ups of it. And I have to say, it's my fault. It has been the #1 piece of equipment that the therapists love, and I think that has gotten us great success with our patients. We've used it for marketing. We've used it in our videos. So I can't say enough that I think it's, when you look at value, we've already gotten the value out of it. So anything, we've had it for a year now, anything after this is pure profit in my mind.
So how do you look at it in terms of it making money every day?
So one of the things that I always have to do when I'm justifying a piece of equipment is kind of look at what the cost is, and then what the value to the patient, and then what will that do to increase our profits, or increase our drug levels, which will then increase our revenue. So that's what I did when I first looked at this, and it's come to fruition, is that we are able to do higher drug levels and with less staff. Because prior to this, we had to, if we were doing high-level balance activities for safety, always at least have an aide and a therapist.
Right.
And now we don't need to do that. You can have one therapist. I feel very safe that the equipment, I don't have any issues that my patient is going to fall or that they're not safe in the piece of equipment. So as a therapist, I can have my patient in there, and I can work with them, getting them to work on their core strengthening, use their arms, even take a few steps, and then I know that they're going to be okay in the piece of equipment. And now I've just cut down on staffing. The other thing is the time. So before, people couldn't tolerate standing in a standing frame for very long. The pressure on their knees, they didn't always feel secure. It was not a very comfortable situation, and the interaction wasn't there. They were kind of stuck in this table. This way, we can work with someone even a half hour on the BariHab, doing a lot of different things. We can go from just working on them going from sit to stand. Then we can work on standing balance. Then we can work on dynamic standing balance. Then we can work on taking a step. Then we can adapt the piece of equipment by taking away some of the support and having them have to do more. So when you're looking at increasing your rug levels to increase the functional potential of that resident, it all works together. So we've been able to do that with the higher level, and then again with the lower level. You know, it was very hard before. The therapists were always struggling is how do we treat these low-level patients? What can we do? And this way, we're showing gains just by measuring. They can go now from an incline of 45 degrees to standing, where before they couldn't do anything. And the hope is that the next week they can go from 30 degrees, and that the next week after that they can go from 0. So those are measurable goals, and that's what Medicare looks at. And we weren't able to do that prior. So it allows us to keep those lower level patients, really adjust our goals to meet our needs financially and for the residents' benefit, and keep them on longer, and then make those gains, because we have to show gains in order to continue on.
From an operational standpoint, do you think in the long term it's going to reduce workers' comp premiums? Is it going to reduce liability premiums?
Yeah, I mean, you know, one fall with a resident can cost you $100,000. I'd rather get 10 new mats. So when we look at that, if the staff is trained correctly and are using the equipment correctly, we should be able to take those residents that would be at risk for falls and put them in this piece of equipment, and so thus eliminating their risk for falls, but still being able to progress them with their treatments. And as far as workers' comp therapists, you know, the main thing is my back hurts, back strain. And really using this, there's a lot of, the equipment itself allows for you to assist the patient with the transfer, but by modifying the height of the table, it allows that resident to assist more with the transfer than they could before, and just gravity helps to eliminate the therapist having to use their back as much. So I see that as again, as a cost saving and as a proactive. And that's what we want to be. The other thing is, you know, therapists sometimes feel like, well, we don't ever get new equipment, or nobody cares about us. And I think by buying this piece of equipment, it really said, we care about you as an individual and your safety and your body, as well as wanting to do what's right for the patient and get them to have a piece of equipment that will help them progress. And I think workers' comp a lot of times comes from staff that aren't happy either. And one of our goals is always to be the best in every field that we're in, and you can't do that without buying the right equipment and training your staff and doing those things.
So it's impacted employee turnover.
Yes.
Has that, I mean, I know that recruitment is a big issue for a lot of skilled nursing facilities across the country. It's somewhat of a transient type occupation in many ways. Has it really reduced the need for recruitment?
I think what it does is it helps when I'm interviewing a therapist. I can feel really proud to say we have all really high-end equipment, you know, state-of-the-art. And a lot of times they've seen some of the other equipment, the SciFit, the Lightgate, but a lot of them haven't seen the Varihat. And so they're like, wow, this is, you know, wow, this company, as I said, is willing to put money where their mouth is, in the old phrase. They don't just have an expectation of us having gains without giving us the equipment to work with. So I think, you know, I can't tell you that we've had people that just come to work with us because we have the Varihat, but I know it's one of the things that they're impressed with, that we're willing to put out that expense in order to see our residents get better and in order to help our staff.
So from a corporate perspective, does the corporate feel like this was a good investment, and have they reap the benefits of it from a financial?
Yeah. And I think it was something that I really had to convince them, because in these economic times, It was an expensive piece of equipment.
Right.
But I don't think there's one person on the corporate staff that wouldn't say that this was a great decision and that they've really seen the benefits of it. And the proof of the pudding is that we got one in every single one of our facilities. And I think if they didn't feel that way, that wouldn't happen. And as I say, even in these times where we're really looking at every penny that we're spending and costs and making sure that what we're doing is effective. And if we bought another building, I know we'd buy another Berry hat. So I have to say yes to that.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
Okay. So thank you.
That was awesome. 10 minutes.